adoption of this amendment. The amendment is not agreed to. Under the previous order, the clerk will read the title of the bill for the third time.
Calendar number 415 S 3240, a bill to reauthorize agricultural programs through 2017 and for other purposes.
Under the previous order, there will now be 10 minutes of debate, equally divided, prior to a vote on passage of Senate Bill 3240 as amended. The senator from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And again, I want to thank all of my colleagues for their patience in the last 2.5 days in voting and debating and working on this agricultural.
Senate will come to order.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all of my colleagues for hanging in there with us and supporting this bipartisan effort on the Agricultural Reform, Food and Jobs Bill. I want to, as I did a little bit earlier, thank Senator Reid for his incredible patience and willingness to give us this time, for the Republican leader to join in that effort as well. But I especially want to thank my ranking member, Senator Roberts, for long hours, hard work on this bill to get to this point. It's been truly a partnership with us, and Senator Roberts is my friend and my partner in this effort, and I'm very grateful. You know, I've said all along in this debate that there are 16 million people in this country whose jobs depend on the strength of the American agricultural economy and our food systems. The Agricultural Reform Bill is about standing up for our nation's farmers, our small businesses, our manufacturers, our exporters, and others whose livelihood depends on us getting the policy right. This represents significant reform. It cuts subsidies, it cuts the deficit, it creates jobs. We're ending direct payments and 3 other subsidy programs that pay farmers regardless of losses or whether or not they're even planting a particular crop. We're putting in place the most significant payment reforms ever. I want to thank Senator Grassley for his tenacity, Senator Johnson for his partnership in that effort as well. We're cutting the federal spending by $23 billion by streamlining and consolidating programs, and therefore we're going to have an opportunity to vote on deficit reduction, $23 billion in deficit reduction, probably the only opportunity to vote on deficit reduction in a bipartisan way on the floor of the Senate in the next number of months. We are eliminating more than 100 authorization programs and streamlining others, strengthening crop insurance, consolidating conservation programs, innovative energy programs, and we're continuing the critical work around nutrition to give temporary help to families who have fallen on hard times. We're also creating more opportunities for families to buy healthy food, local food systems, and to have the opportunity to put fresh fruits and vegetables in our schools and on our tables. You know, Madam President, agriculture is one of the few parts of our economy where we're running a trade surplus, and that we need to recognize that that's also a job creator. The men and women who work hard from sunrise to sunset to give us the bounty of safe, nutritious food that we put on our tables today, they deserve the certainty of this bill. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on a very important bipartisan effort, and yes for the 16 million men and women who bring us the safest, most affordable, most reliable food system in the world. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President.
Senator from Kansas.
Madam President, when you go back home, or if you conduct a press conference, or if you have any contact with anybody in this regard about what we're doing here in Washington, the number one question is, why can't you all get along? Why can't you quit pointing fingers of blame? Why can't you end the rhetoric? Why can't you work together? Why can't you get something done? We knew we had something special when we had a farm bill, and the current farm bill was going to expire you would go back to a farm bill that nobody wanted, or the 49 Act, which is ridiculous, and that we had to move, and that farmers and ranchers and their lenders, everybody concerned with agribusiness, knew that we had to have a farm bill. So we went to work, and we got a 16-5 vote out of committee. It was bipartisan, and we did it in 4.5 hours. That set a record. I don't know of any time where in an Ag Committee, House or Senate, that it has been moved in 4.5 hours. Now, 2.5 days with 73 amendments, opening it up to everybody, regardless of circumstance, regardless if they voted for the bill or not. That's what we've accomplished. 2.5 days, 73 amendments. It's what can happen when we break the logjam of partisanship and work together to get something done. And a tremendous amount of credit goes to the leadership of the senator from Michigan. I feel very privileged to have worked with her and to work with her staff. They've been like musketeers every night, every morning, meeting. What can we do? How can we fix this? And it's worked. So after 2.5 days and 73 amendments, I thank you all for your patience. If anybody did not get an amendment, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know how I missed you. And so consequently, on that side as well. Let me just say again, $23 billion provided in deficit reduction through reduced mandatory spending. The chairwoman is right. This is probably the only time on the Senate floor that we'll actually have a reduction in federal spending, make our deficit contribution. This is a good bill. Is it the best possible bill? No. It is the best bill possible. And we should move. And we should vote for it. And I urge you to vote for it. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Majority Leader.
Madam President, the Republican leader and I we've spoken privately, and we would be remiss if we didn't say something to the entire Senate about how we feel about this bill and the leadership that was shown by these two fine senators. And also behind the scenes, we know how hard they worked to get where we are, but we've had such good staff involvement. These staff people aren't fighting with each other. They have causes they're trying to protect for their members, but they do it in a way that's cordial and been nothing but courtesy shown for weeks. I've managed quite a few bills in my day. This is a difficult bill to have in the position we have it in now. I hope that our friends in the House see what we've done. We're working together. I know they can. I cannot say enough, although I will try, to applaud and compliment Senator Stabenow and Senator Roberts. They're both my friends, but my view of them has risen appreciably in their legislative methods of getting this done. They have done this on their own. Senator McConnell and I have done what we can, but we've been bystanders to much of this that's gone on. It's been the work of these two fine senators and the cooperation of every member. So I am grateful we're to the point where we are today. 2 o'clock, we're going to be able to finish this bill, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, not in the morning.
Minority Leader.
Madam President, let me just echo the remarks of my good friend, the Majority Leader. This bill has been handled in a way entirely consistent with the norms and traditions of the Senate. Members have had an opportunity to express themselves in a whole variety of ways, both relevant to the amendment and a few not relevant to the amendment. Senator Stabenow and Senator Roberts have worked together very skillfully. This is one of the finest moments in the Senate in recent times in terms of how you pass a bill. And I think we're all feeling good about the way this has been handled. I think we're moving back in the direction of operating the Senate in a way that we sort of traditionally understood we were going to operate the Senate. I also want to thank my good friend, the Majority Leader, because it's been a good cooperative effort to have a process that respects the traditions of the Senate. This is a very fine day in the recent history of the Senate. Again, my congratulations to the chairman of the committee and the ranking member. They did a fabulous job. I yield the floor.
Who yields time? All time yielded back. Question is on passage of the bill. Subject to 60 vote affirmative threshold. Is there a second? Appears to be a second. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. Alexander. Ms. Ayat. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Carper. Mr. Baucus. Mr. Begich. Johnson. Johnson. Go, Johnny. Yeah. Mr. Bingaman. Hurry. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Bozeman. Did I skip you? You're easy to get. Review. Hoven. No. Isaacson. No. Shaheen. Mrs. Boxer, Mr. Brown of Massachusetts, Mr. Brown of Ohio. Mr. Burr. Ms. Cantwell. Mr. Cardin. Mr. Carper. Mr. Casey. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Coates. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Cochran. Away. This is on passage. Yes, it is. Yeah, passage. Ms. Collins. Mr. Conrad. I did. Mr. Coons. Sir. Mr. Corker. Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Dement. Mr. Durbin. Yeah, gotcha. Rockefeller? Gotcha. Gotcha. Mr. Enzi. Mrs. Feinstein, Mr. Franken, Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mrs. Hagan. Mr. Harkin. Mr. Hatch. Mr. Heller. Mr. Hoven, Mrs. Hutchison, Mr. Inhofe, Mr. Inouye, Mr. Isaacson, Mr. Johans, Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin, Mr. Johnson of South Dakota, Mr. Kerry, Mr. Kirk, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Cole, Mr. Kyle, McCluskey. Ms. Landrieu, Mr. Lautenberg, Mr. Leahy, Mr. Lee, Mr. Levin, Mr. Lieberman, Mr. Lugar, Mr. Manchin, Mr. McCain, Mrs. McCaskill, Mr. McConnell. Mr. Menendez. Mr. Merkley. Ms. Mikulski. Mr. Moran. Ms. Murkowski. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska. Mr. Nelson of Florida. Mr. Paul. Mr. Portman. Mr. Pryor. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Nevada. Mr. Risch. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Rockefeller. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Sessions. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Shelby. Ms. Snow. Ms. Stabenow. Mr. Tester. Mr. Thune. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Udall of Colorado. Mr. Udall of New Mexico. Mr. Vitter. Mr. Warner. Mr. Webb. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative: Alexander, Begich, Bennett, Blumenthal, Boxer, Brown of Massachusetts, Brown of Ohio, Cardin, Carper, Coates, Cochran, Collins, Conrad, Coons, Enzi, Feinstein, Franken, Hagan, Harkin, Hoeven, Hutchison, Inouye, Johans, Johnson of South Dakota, Kerry, Klobuchar, Cole, Levin, Lieberman, Lugar, Manchin, McCaskill, Mikulski, Murray, Nelson of Nebraska, Reed of Nevada, Roberts, Rockefeller, Shaheen, Thune, and Wyden. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders, aye. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Blunt, aye. Mr. Bingaman. Mr. Bingaman, aye. Mr. Moran. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Lee. Ms. Landrieu. Senators voting in the negative: Bozeman, Burr, Chambliss, Coburn, Cornyn, Crapo, Dement, Graham, Hatch, Inhofe, Isaacson, Johnson of Wisconsin, Landrieu, Lee, McCain, Paul, Rubio, Sessions, Toomey, and Vitter. Mr. Cochran, no. Mr. Merkley. Mr. Merkley, aye. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mrs. Gillibrand, aye. Mr. Wicker, no. Mr. Heller. Mr. Heller, no. Ms. Murkowski. Ms. Murkowski, no. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Barrasso, aye. Mr. Shelby. Mr. Shelby, no. Mr. Tester. Mr. Tester, aye. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Grassley, aye. Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson of Florida, aye. Mr. Leahy. Mr. Leahy, aye. Mr. Kyle. Mr. Kyle, no. Mr. Webb. Mr. Webb, aye. Mr. Warner. Mr. Warner, aye. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Schumer, aye. Ms. Cantwell. Ms. Cantwell, aye. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island. Mr. Reed of Rhode Island, no. Mr. Casey. Mr. Casey, aye.
And which chart is better?
Oh, it's just the truck. Okay. At least yours is mine. Yeah, that's what I meant with Cloture.
Mr. Pryor. Mr. Pryor. No. Ms. Ayotte. Ms. Ayotte. No. Mr. Udall of New Mexico, aye. Mr. Udall. Mr. Udall of Colorado, aye. Ms. Stabenow. Ms. Stabenow, aye. Mr. Lautenberg. Mr. Lautenberg. No. Mr. Menendez. Mr. Menendez, aye. Mr. Baucus. Mr. Baucus, aye. Mr. Portman. Mr. Portman, no. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Durbin, aye. No. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse, no. Mr. Risch, no. Mr. Corker. Mr. Corker, no. You did vote. Mr. Akaka. Mr. Akaka, aye. Mr. McConnell. Mr. McConnell, no.
If not, on this vote, the yeas are 64, the nays are 35. The 60-vote threshold having been achieved, the bill is passed. Without objection. We're up to cloture. The clerk will report the motion to invoke cloture.
We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, hereby move to bring to a close the debate on the motion to proceed to calendar number 250, S-1940, an original bill to amend the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 to restore the financial solvency of the Food Insurance Fund and for other purposes, signed by 17 senators.
By unanimous consent, the mandatory quorum call has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on the motion to proceed to S-1940, an original bill to amend the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 to restore the financial solvency of the Flood Insurance Fund and for other purposes shall be brought to a close. The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. Mr. Alexander. Aye. Stay on.
Aye.
Mr. Barrasso. Yes, sir.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Balko, Mr. Beckich, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Bingaman, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt.
Oh, no, you got to vote with Kathy.
Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Boxer, Mr. Brown of Massachusetts, Mr. Brown of Ohio, Mr. Burr, Ms. Cantwell, Mr. Cardin, Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey, Mr. Chambliss, Mr. Coates, Mr. Coburn, Mr. Cochran, Ms. Collins, Mr. Conrad, Mr. Coons, Mr. Corker, Mr. Cornyn, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Dement, yes, sir. Mr. Durbin,
Sanders live.
yes, sir.
Stands up here counting the votes. My certificate.
Mr. Enzi, Mrs. Feinstein, Mr. Franken, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mrs. Hagan, Mr. Harkin, Mr. Hatch, Mr. Heller, Mr. Hoven, Mrs. Hutchison, Mr. Inhofe, Mr. Inouye, Mr. Isaacson, Mr. Johans, Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin, Mr. Johnson of South Dakota, Mr. Carey, Mr. Kirk, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Cole, Mr. Kyle, Ms. Landrieu, Mr. Lautenberg, Mr. Leahy, Mr. Lee, Mr. Levin, Mr. Lieberman, Mr. Lugar, Mr. Manchin, Mr. McCain,
Mrs. McCaskill, Mr. McConnell, Mr. Menendez, Mr. Merkley, Ms. Mikulski, Mr. Moran, Ms. Murkowski, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Nelson of Nebraska, Mr. Nelson of Florida, Mr. Paul, Mr. Portman, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Reed of Rhode Island, Mr. Reed of Nevada, Mr. Risch,
Thank you. That's great.
Mr. Roberts, Mr. Rockefeller, Mr. Rubio, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Sessions, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Shelby, Ms. Snow, Ms. Stabenow, Mr. Tester, Mr. Thune, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Udall of Colorado, Mr. Udall of New Mexico, Mr. Vitter, Mr. Warner, Mr. Webb, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative. Senators voting in the affirmative. Akaka, Alexander, Ayotte, Barrasso, Bekich, Bennett, Bingaman, Blumenthal, Bozeman, Brown of Massachusetts, Brown of Ohio, Burr, Cantwell, Cardin, Carper, Casey, Chambliss, Coates, Coburn, Cochran, Collins, Conrad, Coons, Corker, Cornyn, Crapo, Durbin, Enzi, Feinstein, Franken, Gillibrand, Graham, Grassley, Hagan, Harkin, Hatch, Heller, Hoban, Hutchison, Inhofe, Isaacson, Johans, Johnson of Wisconsin, Johnson of South Dakota, Kerry, Klobuchar, Cole, Kyle, Lautenberg, Leahy, Lee, Levin, Lieberman, Lugar, Manchin, McCain, McCaskill, McConnell, Menendez, Mikulski, Moran, Murkowski, Murray, Nelson, Nebraska, Portman, Reed of Rhode Island, Reed of Nevada, Risch, Roberts, Rockefeller, Rubio, Sanders, Schumer, Sessions, Shaheen, Shelby, Snow, Stabenow, Tester, Thune, Toomey, Udall of Colorado, Udall of New Mexico, Vitter, Warner, Webb, Whitehouse, and Wicker. Senators voting in the negative. Paul and Pryor. Ms. Landrieu, aye. Mr. Dement? Aye. Mr. Merkley? Aye. Mr. Blunt? Aye. Mr. Noe? Aye. Mr. Wyden? Aye. Mr. Wyden? Aye. Mr. Baucus? Mr. Baucus? Aye. Mr. Nelson of Florida? Aye.
Are there any senators who have not yet voted or who wish to change their vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 96, the nays are 2. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to. Senator from Louisiana.
Mr. President, I rise for a procedural motion and then a short statement on the Farm Bill. On roll call 153 yesterday, I voted yes. It was my intention to vote no on the amendment 153. I therefore ask unanimous consent that I be permitted to change my vote since it would not affect the outcome of the amendment or the bill.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry. I have to do I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Could I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the quorum call?
Without objection.
I had the number wrong, not 153, it's 143. I voted yes. I'd like to change my vote to no. Can I ask unanimous consent?
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just like briefly, I know I have members on the floor or colleagues on the floor that want to speak on other subjects, so I'm going to be brief. I just want to put this into the record, a short statement on the Farm Bill. First, I want to thank the Senator from Michigan and the Senator for Kansas. Really an extraordinary job, a very difficult bill, very complicated, and difficult because it's not just a Republican-Democratic debate or Democrat-Republican debate. It's really a regional debate that has to take place, and there's a lot of give and take. I've been proud to vote for every farm bill that has been before the Senate, to my knowledge, but I voted no today, and I wanted to say why. despite the great work of Senator Stabenow and Senator Roberts, there was a weak part of this bill, in my view, related to rice farming, and it is such a significant and important part of our farming structure in Louisiana that I cast a vote against the bill to send a signal that more work needs to be done. This bill passed the Senate with an overwhelming vote. I voted for many of the amendments that I think helped to shape it to be even better than when it came out of committee. We beat back several attacks to uproot, destroy, or significantly modify the sugar program, which has been a very important staple in the state of Louisiana, one of the nation's great sugar growers. As I've tried to explain to people that continue to attack this program, why would you want to end a program that doesn't cost the taxpayers any direct subsidy in this bill? There is zero money in this bill of billions of dollars for sugar. Why would that be? Because we regulate sugar differently. There are no subsidies like there are for all the other crops. We regulate it through imports. I'm happy to say, American growers of sugar can provide almost 85% of domestic demand. And so why not use domestic sugar if we can supply our domestic demand? We only import what we need to import. We don't want to flood the market with cheap imports coming into America and undermining our jobs. I was proud to stand with our sugar industry and beat back those amendments. Louisiana farmers and ranchers make a significant contribution to our state, generating over $10.8 billion in economic activity alone. Agriculture, including fisheries, of course, forestry, and with energy, is the backbone of Louisiana's economy. This farm bill is an important bill. And as I said, I'm happy to vote for literally dozens of amendments that strengthened it, but held out my final support, hoping that as it travels to the House, the farm provisions related to our rice growers could be perfected. People like to say the United States grows the cheapest, safest, and most abundant food, fiber, and energy supply in the world. They are right. And the people in my state who do that day in and day out are proud. They have every reason to be proud because farming is more than a business, it's more than a job. It's a way of life. It's a way of life that is important and precious and should be honored. Families, and some of these spreads have gotten quite large, but there's still many families, cousins and aunts and uncles and fathers and mothers and children that are involved in farming. It is a way of life. And in Louisiana, in our forest lands and along our coastal lands, these families follow a preferred way of life, even though it means hard work, long hours, high risk, and sometimes heartbreakingly limited returns. So from the sugar and rice industry in the South to cotton and poultry in the North and all areas in between, Louisiana needs a farm bill that supports all of our farmers. This one failed in one important area, which is why I cast a no vote. However, I want to go on to say that this bill did not support, go on to add that this bill did not support adequately, in my view, the 2,000 rice farmers that we have in Louisiana. Our rice industry generates $638 million in our state alone. We're one of the major, along with Arkansas, rice producers. National U.S. rice supports about 128,000 jobs. It's $34 billion of economic input each year. Now, this bill did reduce the deficit. In my view, it took a larger chunk out of rice than was asked for any other commodities, and I know some of the peanut growers in Georgia have some of the same concerns that we do. So let me reiterate and end that I hope that the position of our rice farmers and the important industry that rice represents can be strengthened in the House. If so, I will proudly put my name on this bill because there are some very good things that were done to protect our nutrition programs, to help our middle-class families that find themselves in the unusual situation of having to get some food relief in these difficult times. I want to thank Senator Stabenow particularly for her help in that way. But for my rice growers, my rice producers, the important mills that we have from Crowley, Louisiana to other places, for companies like Kellogg in Battle Creek, Michigan that depend on a strong rice production from Louisiana, I cast a no vote. And finally, I'll say I hope that we can find a way to open up some more markets for our rice growers. We're interested, very interested in trade with Cuba, and the politics sometimes prevents us from opening up more trade relations with a nation that I know has not met our standard of democracy, but most certainly would be an open market for many of my farmers. And so for my farmers that are looking for markets where we can sell and compete on the world market, if we give us an opportunity to compete and open up these markets, then we may be able to adjust our program. But until then, our farmers need the support of other farmers and did not receive it in this bill. I'll put the rest of my statement in the record, and I so appreciate my colleague from Rhode Island for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Thank you, Mr. President. 1972 was a watershed year for expanding educational opportunities in this country. The educational amendments of 1972 included Title IX, now known as the Patsy T. Mink Equal Opportunity Education Act, guaranteeing educational opportunities for women and girls in federally supported educational institutions. But 1972 also saw, within the education amendments, the creation of the Basic Educational Opportunity Grant. Today we know it as the Pell Grant. It was named in honor and in recognition of the extraordinary vision and service of my colleague, my predecessor from Rhode Island, Claiborne Pell. He authored this provision. 40 years later, we can see how these two key changes to our education laws have transformed our nation and transformed the aspirations of millions of Americans. It's also a good time to reflect on the challenges that remain and to renew our commitment to fulfilling the promise of opportunity represented in the education amendments of 1972. Senator Pell's vision was that no student with the talent, drive, and desire should be denied the opportunity for a post-secondary education solely because of a lack of financial resources. Pell Grants have opened the doors to a college education for millions of Americans. In the 1973-74 academic year, the first year which was really effective, 176,000 Pell Grants were awarded. In the school year that began in the fall of 2010, that number grew to over 9.6 million. Pell Grants constitute approximately 23% of all federal student aid, which includes grants, loans, and work-study programs. The Pell Grant is the cornerstone of our federal student aid programs. For needy students, it is the foundation for making college affordable. Unfortunately, reduced state support for higher education and rising college costs have eroded that foundation. In 1976, the maximum Pell Grant was $1,400, which was enough to cover 72% of the cost of attendance at a public four-year college. In 2010, the maximum Pell Grant was $5,500, which was only enough, ironically, to cover 34% of the cost of attendance at a four-year public college. We've seen an erosion of the buying power of the Pell Grant. If we were matching the effort that he initiated in the 1970s, we would be providing more opportunity and more support for college students across this nation. Senator Pell understood that grant aid was critical for low-income students and families. The goal was to minimize the need for loans. And frankly, back in the 1970s, most young people with a Pell Grant, working through the summer, working extra hours they had to during the academic year, could pay their way through school, leave school, without huge, huge debts. Today, regrettably, there are students graduating from schools with $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of debt because the Pell Grants haven't kept up, because college costs have accelerated, and because they've been forced to borrow. Today, low-income students, middle-income students rely heavily on student loans to pay college. And we're seeing another burden. And frankly, this ripples throughout our economy. In the 1970s and 1980s, if you left college with owing a few $1,000s, you could pay that off very quickly. So by your late 20s, you were ready to settle down, to buy the house. Today, we have a generation of students that are struggling with debt that might take them 10 or more years to pay off effectively so they can begin to buy the home, to settle down, to do the things that are so important to our overall economy. Unless we are able to come to an agreement over the next several days, we also face the prospect of seeing the rate on these student loans double by July 1st. That would deal another blow to moderate and low-income families. Now, Leader Reid has proposed a very reasonable compromise. I hope that compromise is going to be followed up. I'm hopeful that my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, can, use this opportunity not only to continue to keep the lending rate low for Stafford loans, but renew our pledge and our commitment to the Pell Grant. It would be ironic to see on the 40th anniversary of the Pell Grants a further undermining of the ability of middle and low-income Americans to go to college. In fact, this should be the opportunity to do much more. Senator Pell's words ring true today, as true as when he spoke them in 1995, in one of the last years of his tenure in the United States Senate. In his words, as I have stated on many occasions, few things in life are more important than the education of our children. They are the living legacy that we leave behind, and their education determines the future of the American nation. He continued, every day families are making decisions about sending their children to college. Certainly one of, if not the major obstacles they face is how to pay for college. The loan is their last resort. It provides the extra but necessary money they must have after exhausting their own resources and obtaining any grants for which their children might be eligible. Increasing the amount their children owe after graduation may well place the dream of a college education beyond their reach. That, to my mind, would be a tragedy of truly immense proportions. Senator Pell was right. Increasing student debts, especially during these difficult economic times, would be a tragedy for students, their families, and our nation. I urge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, on our side of the aisle, all of my colleagues, to work together to prevent an increase in the student loan interest rate from doubling on July 1st. And that would indeed be a fitting tribute to Senator Pell on the 40th anniversary of the Pell Grant.
Oh, it's behind you.
President.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Mr. President, I am honored to join my senior senator